So Robert De Niro, who it wouldn't matter. I mean, Robert De Niro would indict a ham sandwich if the ham sandwich had an R stamped on it. Robert De Niro, legal expert, because he once played a lawyer on TV, I think, maybe. I mean, when he wasn't playing like a gangster or something. Robert De Niro cut a PSA about the state of the law on obstruction of justice. Now, I challenge Robert De Niro to read me the obstruction of justice statute and explain it to me. I do not think that Robert De Niro has ever read the obstruction of justice statutes. There are several of them. I do not think that he has a law degree, last I checked. I don't think he's a legal expert in any way. But here is Robert De Niro leading former prosecutors in a public service announcement that there is clear evidence that President Trump committed obstruction of justice and therefore he is impeachable. This is where the heart and soul of the Democratic Party base is, not only with impeachment, but also in Hollywood. Robert De Niro, the man who gets up on stage and bravely says to a crowd of fellow Hollywoodites who hate President Trump, F Trump, and gets a standing ovation. His bravery has extended to new heights with this public service announcement.
Recently, over 1,000 former federal prosecutors who served under both Republican and Democratic presidents have united to sign a statement to help Americans understand what's actually in the Mueller report. Their conclusion should trouble us all. Listen to them in their own words.
We carefully read and analyzed the Mueller report.
And we all strongly believe that there is more than enough evidence to indict President Trump for multiple felony counts of obstruction of justice.
If you or I did what President Trump did, we'd be facing prison.
And no one, not even the president, should be above the law.
In the words of the Mueller report, no person is above the law.
Okay, so Robert De Niro leading the charge here. A couple of things. One, if the president were not the president, this investigation never would have begun in the first place. Okay, let's be real about this. The fact is that Paul Manafort was walking around at large until he made the unfortunate decision of joining the Trump campaign, at which point he went directly in the crosshairs of the FBI. Right? Paul Manafort was doing this crap for years. And the FBI knew about it. In fact, he was indicted on charges that spring from activity long before he joined the Trump campaign. The idea that if Trump were not in a position of power, that he would be guilty of obstruction of justice, well, that's not really true. And the reason that's not really true is because he's not been held to be indictable on obstruction of justice charges with regard to the people he worked with. For example, his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. So Michael Cohen has tried to provide evidence that President Trump ordered him to lie. But even Cohen won't say openly that Trump ordered him to lie, which means no obstruction of justice. See, the difference between this and Bill Clinton is that Bill Clinton openly ordered people to lie to people. Okay, that is obstruction of justice. Donald Trump, and when I say ordered them to lie, I mean officials. Donald Trump told people to lie to the press. That's bad. That is not obstruction of justice. Donald Trump told his advisors he'd like to see Robert Mueller fired, and then when they said no, he didn't follow up. That's not obstruction of justice. That's him acting like a tool bag. Okay, that's not the same thing. And it's very easy for former federal prosecutors to sit there and say this sort of stuff, but if they were on the job, I really doubt they would be indicting. I don't think that they think that they could get any sort of actual verdict on the basis of these facts. So here's where Democrats are. If you're a 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, you basically have one choice and one choice only. And that choice is that you push impeachment. And the reason you push impeachment is because there's no effect on you to not pushing impeachment. If you're Nancy Pelosi and you still want to be Speaker of the House, it's going to be very difficult for you to retain the speakership if you push impeachment, given the fact that there are a lot of suburban people, suburban women particularly, who are not all that interested in impeachment. See, here's the truth. Most Americans like stability in politics. They like the idea that they can go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning without having to feel this sense of crisis on their souls. It's the lead reason why the chief threat to President Trump's presidency is, in fact, President Trump. The more chaotic President Trump is, the more people feel uneasy, and the more the Democrats' sort of 1920 return to normalcy Warren G. Harding campaign has legs. Americans want to be able to feel that their government is basically in safe hands, that in the same way that you go out for the night with your spouse and you leave the kids with the babysitter and you don't want the babysitter to be a pyromaniac, it's the same sort of feeling with regard to government. You want to be able to go to sleep at night, take your wife out for a night on the town, and when you open up your computer afterward, you don't want to see that the world has imploded. Well, the media have done a good job of exacerbating President Trump's tendency toward chaos. But the same thing is true on the other side with regard to impeachment. Impeachment is inherently destabilizing. Most Americans aren't in love with the idea of impeachment. In fact, they think that impeachment is likely to lead to more chaos and more destabilization if people want to get rid of Trump, they believe. There's an election coming up in a year and a half. And we've lasted for 2.5 years and things have been pretty much fine. Yes, there's been a lot of chaotic headlines, but The economy is fine, no foreign crises, all that's cool. So Democrats are playing a dangerous game, but if you're a 2020 candidate, you cannot afford not to call for impeachment because your case is that President Trump is a force of chaos, President Trump is a criminal. So this is the happy medium that Democrats have to sort of push, that Trump is impeachable, but we're not going to impeach him.